It's.com.
From the Beacon Capital Management Weather Center.
Heat building in across the mid-state. I'm WSMV4 First Alert Meteorologist Stefano DiPietro. Plenty of sunshine today, a little breezy this afternoon. High temperatures back near 90. Warm and humid overnight tonight. Low 70s for the overnight low. Tomorrow is a repeat day. Plenty of sunshine with highs back near 90.
Information fueled.
Opinion driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
6:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The auto pen investigation begins, and I would say not a moment too soon. It is interesting, though, because, and I was talking about this earlier, really just mentioned it in passing. And a lot of folks are very cynical about this investigation because a lot of you folks are saying, you know what? This is just going to be like Epstein. This is just going to be like as I said in the 5 o'clock hour, the Biden investigation into influence peddling. Nothing will happen. So don't even bother. And I do wholeheartedly understand your cynicism. I really do. This is from the Associated Press. The president, his administration, has opened an investigation into whether Joe Biden was competent when he used an auto pen to issue lame duck pardons to family members and death row inmates. Ed Martin, got some great audio from him coming up. Ed Martin, Trump's ultra MAGA pardon attorney, said the Justice Department has been directed to investigate clemency granted by Biden in the waning days of his presidency, including the December pardon of his troubled son, Hunter Biden. Martin's unprecedented probe was revealed in a Monday email to staffers that was obtained by Reuters. The attorney said the investigation involves whether Biden was competent and whether others were taking advantage of him through the use of auto pen or other means. So basically, what they're saying, and if you don't know, I mean, I assume most folks know what an auto pen is. Basically, an auto pen is a device used to automatically affix a signature to a document. But here's the thing, and everybody knows, and we're going to talk about this, that presidents have used auto pen for years, as a matter of fact, because they do sign a lot of documents. The use of the auto pen itself is not in question. The question is, was Joe Biden, in his rapidly declining cognitive state, aware of what was going on and what was being signed in his name? Because the more that we find out about Joe Biden and the Biden administration, the more we realize dude had no clue. We joked yesterday. There are insiders in the White House when Biden was president that were saying that he was getting lost in his closet. I mean, we know that Joe Biden, it's not even a debate. I'm not even going to go down that road. It's not even a debate. So do you think that Joe Biden really knew what was being signed in his name? I don't believe so. And so this guy, Ed Martin, again, he is an attorney working with Donald Trump, and he's looking at all of this, and he's been on a lot of interviews talking about the use of auto pen, and will these investigations have an impact on these pardons that Joe Biden supposedly granted to some of these people like Anthony Fauci?
The question is more about competence. If you have someone who's not competent, they can't enter into a contract, right? And if you do enter into a contract, you've committed fraud. The question is whether you use a tool to trick people into entering into a fraud. So the Biden pardons are unprecedented. The ones right before Christmas that he did, people forget this. I think it's a couple thousand pardons that were done. Did he know about that? Did he really understand? Look, the pardon power is plenary, but the guy has to be competent to do it.
Well, I think we know that Joe Biden was not competent when all of this went down, and he made a lot of pardons. He commuted about 1,600 sentences, made controversial pardons. Anthony Fauci, Mark Milley, 37 federal death row inmates, and of course, 5 of his family members, including Hunter Biden. And so Ed Martin, the attorney that is looking into this, helping to look into this, he brings up the point. Was Joe Biden competent? Did he even know about some of these controversial pardons?
Auto pen's completely legal if you're competent. And there must be a trail that shows who was in charge of the auto pen. I know this exists. Like, I worked for a governor. We had a system for an auto pen to be able to use it. And so right now we have unprecedented conduct, the pardons, unprecedented admissions, the books as well as the staffers. I had a whistleblower in my office 10 days ago, senior Democrat, saying, look, it was these three people that controlled access and they were making money off of it. I don't know if I believe it yet, but the point is, I think we have to get to the bottom of it for the American people and to protect the process.
Yeah. Tim Burchett. Remember Tim Burchett? Talk to him all the time. Well, he has been saying that, and he said, he was very clear when he said, I played you the audio, that he said that he didn't have proof, but he did say that it was his assumption that people were making money off of those pardons. And so who are the ones that supposedly may have been making money off of these pardons? According to Ed Martin, it is Ron Klain, chief of staff, Anita Dunn, a Democrat operative and a Biden advisor, and Robert Bauer, who was also within the Biden realm. He was Obama's attorney. And so these three, of course, are Democrat operatives. And I'm telling you, these folks are really going to start feeling the heat. Because the more that we find out about how out of it Joe Biden was, the more we realize that a lot of the things that Joe Biden did or supposedly did were done by other people, unelected bureaucrats. And so that's why I'm taking great pains right now as we go into the midterm elections in about a year and a half. It wasn't about Biden. It was about the Democrat apparatus, and that includes Democrats at the national and the local level. The email that they're talking about that Reuters was able to get stated that Martin's investigation is focused on preemptive pardons Biden issued to family members of his family and clemency that spared 37 federal inmates from the death penalty, converting their sentences to life in prison. Now, and we went through what some of these guys did that are on death row, and these are the absolute worst of the worst. Just before he relinquished the presidency to Donald Trump on January 20th, Joe Biden pardoned 5 members of his family, saying that he wanted to protect them from future politically motivated investigations. But remember, on that day, I remember this. On that day, you even had people on MSNBC that were saying that this looked sketch as all get out, and that it made Joe Biden and the entire Biden family look absolutely guilty. The story continues. Questions have since arisen about whether Biden actually signed many of those orders under his administration amid his noticeable and provable cognitive decline after it was revealed that he utilized AutoPen to sign a lot of these things. The mechanical device signs documents rather than an individual. It has been used by presidents and lawmakers for decades. The Oversight Project in March gathered every document they could find with Joe Biden's signature over the course of his presidency, and all used the exact same AutoPen, except for one. And that was the announcement that the former president was dropping out of the race last year. I'm cynical too. Do I think that anything's going to happen with this? I really don't know. I hope so. We'll talk about this and a whole lot more straight ahead. 6:15, time to check the roads on WTN.
Jolton, 24 eastbound past New Hope Road. We've got reports of an accident. Ashland City, Old Clarksville Pike is closed at Carl Perry Road due to a vehicle fire. Riverfront, watch for road closures for CMA Fest, including First Avenue between Broadway and Demonbreun. I'm Christy O'Brien.
As far as your weather for today, a high of 90 and partly cloudy. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. So there is a lot going on as of late. You do have the books coming out showing how bad Joe Biden was cognitively. Is there any debate? I'm just going to ask this. Is there any debate at this point that this is bigger than Watergate? Clearly, this is bigger than Watergate. And the reason why this is bigger than Watergate is because you had an entire media that was in on trying to convince the American people that Joe Biden still had the ability to focus on the job at hand. He had the cognitive ability to do his job when clearly he did not. And now the media is trying to do everything they can to reestablish their long lost credibility. But here's the thing. You've got staffers coming out now and saying that he had zero idea what he was doing. Here's the other thing. Just going down this road, Watergate was blown open by a couple of journalists from the Washington Post. Woodward and Bernstein, right? The Washington Post was complicit in 2022, 2023, 2024. The Washington Post was complicit in this cover-up of Joe Biden's rapidly declining cognitive abilities. So clearly, when you talk about which was worse, Watergate or the cover-up of Joe Biden's cognitive decline, clearly Joe Biden's cover-up was far more widespread. It was the entire party. It was of the Democrats. It was many in the media as well. And assuming that all of this is true, and I think that we all know that it was true because we saw it with our own eyes. Biden staffers did cover up his declining cognitive abilities. There was an abundant use of AutoPen. I don't believe that Joe Biden knew what was being signed in his name, and the government was being run by a bunch of unelected bureaucrats. Then all of the questions then become, okay, well then are all of those pardons invalid? Back to Ed Martin in a discussion with Glenn Beck.
This is a $64,000 question, but let's just do it as a hypothetical to be a little bit more, a little bit less specific to this, if I can. Okay. If you and I go enter a contract and it turns out that you were not capable of entering into the contract, right? And depending on how I relied on it, if I went and did something and I was paid for it, I might make the argument that you have to honor that. But in general, that's not a valid contract. So, the validity of these things, whether they're pardons or other actions, is going to come into question. And I think there's some details and legal questions that are going to be a little bit harder. But you can see that it's and here's what's more troubling to me is if some of these pardons were issued because they were being engineered, for example, for Fauci or for the Select Committee on January 6th, yep, to by someone who's taking advantage of Joe Biden in order to cover things up. Well, that can't be what the system contemplated, and so I think that's all going to come into question. Yes. All
right, so we'll have to see what happens. By the way, and I appreciate this, because folks are checking in on the super text line 615-737-9986. Many agree with me, including 1303. No debate. This is Watergate times Xfinity. Absolutely right, 1303. But Bill says this. Dan, nothing is going to happen to anyone involved in the AutoPen scandal. Remember when James Comer, this is where I'm going with this. You're absolutely right, Bill. Remember when James Comer told us that the Biden crime family would be held accountable. Nothing happened then, and nothing will happen now. I hate to say this, but I agree with Bill. I do. 2607. Can we not talk about this? Nothing will happen. Has anyone been held accountable for anything? No. The other thing that I would say is that when you look at how all of this came down, I believe that the swamp will more than likely protect the swamp. And James Comer, I got so pissed off at James Comer. I literally said this, and somebody also mentioned this on the super text line. They're coming in so fast, I'm having a hard time keeping up. But one thing, I remember one day where I got so ticked off at James Comer for saying the same damn thing over and over again. But nothing ever happened. And one guy says, you know what? The Republicans need to quit talking about this until they are ready to bring some facts and some actionable facts where they can really start going after people and really start leveling some actual charges and not just talk about it for years with nothing going on. Here's Josh Hawley and part of what he had to say.
I think we've got to let this investigation go where the facts lead it. I mean, we've got to follow the truth here, something that was not done for the last 4 years. And I will just say the Bidens have always gotten off the hook. You know, you think about Hunter Biden, his many crimes. I mean, he was one of the guys pardoned, obviously, by his father in those closing days. They always were held to a different standard, a double standard. I think it's time for the end to the double standard. Let's get the truth for once. Let's actually get the truth and go where that leads us.
622, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. Time will tell. Jay Harper has the news coming up at 6:30. Jay's in for Joan. What's up, Jay?
Yes, Dan, a stabbing attack at a homeless shelter in Oregon, and more bombshell testimony in the Diddy trial. And a Tennessee teenager stabs his father, and wait till you learn why. We'll have those stories coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You never know what words Matt Murphy and Cameron Smith will choose on the All the Best Words podcast.
Like that episode when the words were boy fight and testosterone. Want to hear how that ends?
Subscribe to All the Best Words on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or stream it on YouTube on Super Talk TV.
You know, my upstairs bathroom, it literally has holes in it. It's really ugly. It needs a lot of work. Well, if that's you, if you've got a bathtub, maybe a shower that needs a lot of work, my friends at Zentex, they can help you. If you've got a bathtub that needs work, they have been around Nashville since 2001. And yes, they are here to help you right now. They can remodel your shower. They can remodel your bathtub. They can even convert your bathtub into a walk-in shower. Now, it is a big project that, yes, it can increase the value of your home. And Zentex, they can have it wrapped up in a day. Now, Zentex is an award-winning company that offers limited lifetime warranties for both their products and, yes, the installation as well. You can make your bathroom safer with a walk-in shower, complete with grab bars and a bench seat. It is perfect for the older folks in your life who need that assist and support. So fix, remodel, or convert your tub into a shower today with my friends at Zentex. Call them. Tell them you heard about them on Nashville's Morning News and Dan Mandis. 629-258-7747. 629-258-7747. And they've got a great deal going on right now. You mentioned WTN. You get $1,750 off or no interest for 24 months, whichever works best for you. And also, you mentioned WTN, no payments for 2 years. Zentex.com, Zintex, Zentex.com.